I'm Erin Zillman, and I'm a senior here at Iowa State. I'm doing student teaching and graduating in the spring, and I'm majoring in English and secondary education.
I am Morgan Seaman, and I'm also a senior at Iowa State, and I will be a student teaching and graduating in the spring, and I am majoring in English and secondary education.
Okay, so first we will describe our ideas / principles behind technology integration. We're going to be talking about the purpose of technology, its affordances, constraints, and of this technology for our specific purposes.
So I'll go first. So I believe like the integration of technology provides like a more engaging learning environment for our students. So like we can present subjects and like specific lessons and like activities in more interactive and creative ways for our students to get them, like I said, more engaged in our classroom.
I agree with that. I also think that for affordances, technology can be a really great resource for students, especially as a tool for research. It can be used in differentiation and also assessment. In terms of assessment, there's a lot of like really good assessment tools that we learned about in this class that make it a lot easier for teachers to grade and get quick information about how their students are doing in a particular content area. So these include Google Forms or Kahoot, and so that's just one benefit of technology.
Yeah, and bouncing off of that, like technology is being used everywhere. All students like are using it. They're never not going to use it. So it's nearly impossible to avoid using technology. So like implementing it in the classroom prepares students for the future. And like all of our jobs going forward will include technology. So it just familiarizes students with programs that they might use in their future careers.
I would agree. And I think it's good to think about how technology can benefit the classroom, but I also think that it doesn't necessarily need to be in every aspect of the classroom because there are some constraints with it. So there's still something to be said for classroom materials that aren't digital or online, even though they can be helpful.
Are you good to go on to the next one for next question, or?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So now we're going to describe how this course has helped us develop our understanding of educational technology. So Erin, over the course of 3 semesters, what topics, experiences, or discussions have been particularly meaningful and why?
So yeah, there's like a few things I really didn't think about before taking this class. One of them that we talked about was the issue of copyright and fair use for teachers. I think it was like good to know about what resources I as a teacher can use in my class and how I can provide them with supplemental resources without going through a long process of getting permission from the owner. So that was just one thing that really stuck out to me that I really hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, I would agree. There was not there. I did not think a lot about this before taking this class, but also this is like my first semester taking ed tech at Iowa State, so I haven't spent that much time as like you guys have taken this 3-semester course. I did take like a different ed tech at the community college I went to, but it was very different than this, which is fine.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I really appreciated that we talked about was mental health. I think it's a really important subject to talk about, especially when we're also talking about technology, just with the increased use of technology through different things going on, and how I liked how we talked about how the online classes really can affect students' mental health. So I think it's just really important to think about that as teachers, like how we can, what strategies we can use to help students who might be struggling with that.
Yeah, I wrote down mental health also and burnout. I really did like that seminar as well. And yeah, mental health has always been a huge topic, but especially like the past few years with COVID and like as about to be first year teachers, this is something like I feel like I'm gonna put my mental health like on the back burner. So just like learning of ways to, keep myself up is very beneficial. So
I would agree. Some strategies that I remember when we were talking about mental health, like as a teacher, if you were teaching online, some that stuck out to me were check-ins with your class, just asking how they're doing, giving your students extra time to complete assignments, and not going heavy on coursework and other things that could ease the stress of your students. Whatever you can do to just help them, make them less anxious is always great.
Yeah, I agree. I've had like several of the unit plans that I've created. I've done several like check-ins. So another topic that I thought was meaningful was social media and like the pros and cons and like using it in the classroom. What do you think of that, of using social media?
I think it's really interesting because like it can be a good resource, and it can like lead to interesting like conversations and discussions with students, but also it could also be a distraction, or there's also, depending on the age of the students, they might not know really how to use social media properly. So there's just also like some things that I would be cautious with when using social media, but I also think that it can have its benefits. So I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I've said that like I would love to create like a Instagram page or just like a Facebook page for parents, you know, to like have updates in the classroom. But I've also seen like in some of the texts that we have read in other classes, like teachers using like Twitter, and I just feel like students would like almost abuse that, like being able to post tweets or something. So yeah, I'm kind of cautious about like, I don't know if I want to use social media, but or maybe I just won't leave it like in my students' hands. So
right, it's definitely something to think about. So our next question is, how can technology help your students in your content area? How can technology help your students be more creative, critical problem solvers, and thinkers? What did you say, Morgan?
So first off, I said that technology in like an English language arts classroom is essential, just because like everyone is used to using like technology in the classroom, and so like you don't see students obviously writing a paper like on paper anymore. So just like everything that I guess really that like I've seen in practicum or just as my time as a student, like everything is on technology, even like textbooks. Nobody really has textbooks anymore.
I would agree, and especially like in English, we do like a lot of research. I feel like a lot of like research papers, and so technology gives like students a lot more resources and a wider variety of resources. But with that, this also means that we need to teach our students about reliable and unreliable sources, because online you can find a lot of reliable, great sources, but you can also find a lot of biased, maybe not so reliable sources. So it's just something you need to be thinking about while you have this great technology.
Yeah. I've also said, or I also think that like technology, many people can see it like in a classroom like as boring or like repetitive, but I just think like that might go back like on the teachers to like maybe like change it up a little bit, or use more like apps like Canva or like sites like Canva to get like the students involved of their own, you know, assignment making, and so that they can have like autonomy, and makes them feel like they're in charge of their assignments in a way. Might make them, you know, more excited to do these assignments rather than just, here you go, here's a Google Doc, fill this out type of thing.
One last thing I had with this question was, I'm getting an endorsement to teach English as a second language, and there are like so many online tools that can help students with this, especially like tools that will read text out loud to students so they can follow along, vocabulary definitions, all those things. So that's kind of how you can use it in that content area, but also as like a general ed teacher, it's important to think about that too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so for this last question, we chose digital equity. So, Erin, what do you think about digital equity in the classroom?
So, we learned a lot about digital equity in this class, and it's definitely a more recent issue with the like increased reliance of schools on technology. But it can create a gap between students when they go home, and some can like have access to technology and Wi-Fi, and then others don't have access to that. So it's important for us as teachers to think about ways we can support these students and how we can bridge this gap between students. Do you have any ideas of how we can do this?
So like as a teacher, some ways that I've thought of to help
undivide them.
Undivide this digital inequity in the classroom, however you want to say that, is just like reach out. Some examples are like conduct a survey at like the beginning of like the school year and like try to find out the technology concerns of your students. So like who does or who does not have internet at home, and like ways that you can adapt your curriculum to sort of make sure that like the students who don't have access to internet or like can't take a computer home, like making sure that they can still get their work done in class. And also just like reconsider your homework and homework policies. Make sure you're giving your students time in class, or just like this for the students who can't take, like don't have the resources, maybe giving them a few extra days, or making sure they get into your classroom like before or after school, stuff like that. How about you?
Yeah, I have a lot of the same things. Basically a lot of the same things, like surveying parents, seeing what like resources might be in the community. Something I thought was cool, one of the articles we read in this class talked about how this school in California, they had a lot of kids that didn't have Wi-Fi access in their houses, and they would put Wi-Fi on their school buses, and then the school buses would be parked overnight in some of these like communities and like neighborhoods, so students could go on the buses, just sit on the buses and like do their homework. I thought that was like really interesting, like just like getting creative, figuring it out. It's definitely great ways.
Yeah. Well, even like one example that I said, like during COVID shutdown, like my back home school teamed up with like another, like, and obviously a lot of schools did this, but teamed up with like another internet business to like help provide the families who don't have access to internet home, and like gave them free access like the rest of the school year. Just like you could do that for a few months. Like how do we not have ways to figure this out, by now? But
for sure, I definitely agree. There are definitely ways that we as teachers can support our students with technology, even if they may not have as much access to technology. But again, it is kind of like on us to see how we can do that and to take action.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.